I'd say you run a club, or maybe you're part of a club. Okay, maybe it runs at the weekends. Maybe it's a martial arts club, a football or soccer club, right? Or indeed an American football club. Doesn't really matter. You've got some kind of club. You're either a part of it, or you are regularly sending out emails to your user base, to your member base, and you want a way that sort of people at large can just chat to those emails, okay? Because they're likely to have lots of information about changes at the club, reminders about various events, okay, or anything else. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can create a bot that learns and continually updates its knowledge based on the emails that you send out, or perhaps that you get from your group. But what's more, it's not going to take any code at all. I'm Dylan Humphreys, and since 2022, I've been helping companies and individuals figure out how they can get the most out of AI. Let's dive in. So here's what we're going to create today. I've got this bot, and I can ask it when are training times, okay? And it says the training times are this, and it gives a citation for its answer. If I ask it, what kit should I bring? It will not know the answer to that because I have not given it that information, okay? I cannot provide information on what kit you should bring. All right. So what we're going to try and do is to essentially, for every email that we send out to our club at large, that the bot will then learn what was in that email so that it can then answer questions on it. Now, ordinarily, and for most bot platforms, the easiest way of doing this, okay, is to actually go into the bot and manually add that knowledge in. But that's a bit cumbersome. It's another step we have to do and it won't get done. So what we're going to get is we are going to get an automation set up, which is going to inject the email that we sent directly into the bot, and then we can come back to the bot and start asking it questions about our latest email. So there's only three things you're going to need. You're going to need a Get Cody account, which is free. You're going to need an n8n account, which is also free. You get a 14-day trial. And you don't need this, but it's helpful that you have a Postman account. Again, free. Links to all of these, by the way, are down in the description, so do check that out. If you haven't heard of Get Cody, Get Cody is a very simple bot platform. It's been around for a little while. It's a little bit out of date, but it serves the purpose for what we want to do here. If you're used to using VoiceFlow or BotPress or any of these other big ones, this structure will work just the same. We'll just have slightly different API calls, but that is all perfectly surmountable. Okay. n8n. If you don't know what n8n is, this is all over the internet at the moment in terms of what it can do for automation. If you've used Zapier or Make before, this is that sort of thing. It's an automation platform, but they've very much gone heavy on the AI. And also, I think that n8n have managed to sort of strike a really good balance between functionality and ease of use. So imagine here, this is our email that we're sending out to our club at large, and that's going off to our members, Zoe and Fred. We're then going to set up this n8n automation, which is going to periodically check our email to see if there's a suitable email that's either gone out or been received, however you want to do that. So that's the trigger. We're then going to get the information on that email, including its text-based body. And then we are going to call the bot platform's API to actually inject that knowledge into the bot's knowledge. And then therefore, when a user comes along and talks to that bot, they will have knowledge of this email, in this example, grading on Saturday, that they'll be able to talk to that, and we won't have had to have changed anything in our bot platform in order to achieve that. It would have just all happened automatically via this n8n workflow. So we're going to start with creating our bot, as I said, in this platform called Get Cody. Um, Link in the description. By all means, follow that. This is all doable with a free account. So when you come here, you can click on sign up, answer all the questions. I already have an account, so I'm just going to log in. So what I'm going to do first is set up. I think we're going to use the example of a karate club. Okay. Not only am I a big fan of Cobra Kai, but also I've started doing karate myself with my boys, and we took our grading just this weekend. We got our next belt, so we're super pleased with that. We're going to click on knowledge first of all, because we really want to define a folder for our knowledge. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to call it Karate Club. Okay. Now, at the moment, zero documents and zero bots are using it. That's fair enough. Now, I could, if I had all my information in a PDF Word file, something along those lines, I could upload this information, and that might be maybe all the information that you already have on your club. You could upload it. That could work. If you happen to have it on a website, you can use this option here. But what we're going to do is come over here, and I'm going to say training times, and then I'm going to put in our training times. I've just copied and pasted those in. So I'm going to click on create. Now, at the moment, I have that knowledge in there, but I haven't assigned it to my bot yet. Okay, that's because we haven't created the bot. So I'm going to come over here to bots. I'm going to say new bot. I'm going to say Cobra Kai bot, a bot for Cobra Kai members. Come down here, we get to choose which model our bot is going to use. Now, even at the time of recording, these models are a little out of date, but it's fine. GPT-4o Mini 32K will be absolutely fine for our purposes. We can use these other models, but as you can see, we need to upgrade to a paid plan. We're just going to give our bot a personality. This is really just grounding the prompt in the background, but I'm going to choose factual, and I'm going to call it Johnny. Handling unanswerable questions. This is a little bit misleading. I'm just going to say nothing there. It won't do nothing, but let's not worry about that for now. And then what we're going to do is come down here to the knowledge base, and this is the folder that we just created and put some knowledge in. So I'm going to add that in. And if I go create, bot has now been created. I'm going to scroll back up to the top here. I'm going to go bots. This is what we've just created. I'm going to go chat, and I'm going to go tell me the training times. And predictably, it tells us exactly what we pasted in, which was those training times. It knows about them. Okay. However, if I ask it, what kit should I bring? It's going to say, I cannot provide information on that because we haven't told it, right? So what we're going to try and do now is we're going to try and set up an automation that will allow us to send an email out to our members at large, okay? But in doing that, it will trigger this automation, which will inject that knowledge, that the body of that email, if you like, into our bot. And I'm going to show you step by step how to do it. So what I want to do before we leave Get Cody is just get some information which we're going to need to put into n8n. I'm going to come here to Account, API Keys. I'm going to create API key. I'm going to call it n8n. I'm going to do that, and I get this key here. Okay. So I'm going to copy that and just paste it into a text editor, which I have down here on my laptop screen. So this API key is going to allow us to get n8n to inject the knowledge into our bot. This is a key piece of information that we need. Now, before we start actually trying to get the automation to work, what I want to do first of all is just zero in on the exact API call that I need in order to inject information into my bot. And for that, I'm going to reference the Kodi API documentation. I've put a link in the notes so you can go straight to it. But what I'm interested in is essentially, first of all, the authentication. So this is how we authenticate with the Kodi AI API. Okay, and it's saying this is fairly standard. We'll send in an authorization header and a bearer followed by the API key that we just generated. Don't worry if you don't understand what I'm talking about yet. This will all become clear. Okay, so what do we need? We want to look at folders. Okay, and we're probably going to want to list folders because we're going to want to put the knowledge that we're getting from wherever into this folder here. Okay. So we are going to want to list folders, and it could be one of these calls down here. I'm not sure yet, but we'll check it out. I think actually documents is probably going to be the one. We're probably going to be using create document here. But for now, let's just list folders and see what we can get. So in any API documentation, you generally get a layout like this. It'll sort of talk about the high-level objects as you relate to them from the UI. And then you might see something like this, like a curl command. Okay, curl, for those of you that don't know, is a command line program specifically for making API requests. So what we're going to do next is to use Postman to make this request and essentially see what information we get back. Okay, so if you haven't already, link in the description, head to Postman. You can create a new account. Okay, so I'm logged into Postman. I am going to click on my workspace. And then I'm going to click on new, HTTP, and then I've got somewhere here where I can input a URL. So if I get this is what I want to do. I want to paste in folders. Okay. This is what's called the API verb. I want to leave that on get. How do I know that? Well, because of that get there. Okay. And then you can see here that it also requires this header, as it mentioned on the first page, of authorization bearer and then the token which we generated in Kodi earlier. So I'm just going to come here to the authorization tab. I'm going to say bearer token, and I am going to copy and paste that token which I got from getKodi into there. Okay. And then that should do it. I'm going to click on send. And then down here, you will see in the body of our response, I have this. And therefore, we can see our folder here is Karate Club. And when it was created, that's just a date stamp. But what I need here is that ID there. I'm just going to save it. Okay, so, and I'm just going to call it, sorry, I'm just writing this in my text editor. So I'm just going to put in the folder ID there. So I'm saving that ID. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm going to come into here, into documents, and I'm going to create a document. Okay. And this gives me an example of how I might inject a document into a particular folder that you can see here. Here is the request. It's a bit more complicated than the last one that we did, but it's still perfectly doable. You'll notice that we're going to have to post this time around. So what I'm going to do is do another tab here. I'm going to post. I'm going to copy that URL. Okay. I'm going to go with the authorization again. I need to put in my token. It's already saved it. That's good. Okay, what else do we need? We need this header of content type application JSON. So let's go into headers, content type, application JSON. That should do it. What else do we need? We need, so here, this is what's called the body. All right. Now, before we looked at the body of the response, but what we want to do now is define the body of the request. Okay, so this is our request that's going out. I'm going to say raw. I'm going to paste that in. So we need to give our knowledge a name. So I'm going to say, I'm just going to call this API knowledge, just so that we know. So it's giving it a different name to what we have there already. The folder ID is going to be what we got from the previous response. That's this value here. Yeah. Okay, so I'm pasting that in there. And the content is going to be kit you should bring should be loose fitting clothing, or you can buy a gi from our club shop. And we could include a URL in there if we wanted to. Okay. So with all that done, I am going to hit send, and that's going to go through. Now, the fact now that we've got this 200 OK, as the color implies, that's good. That means that the Kodi API has accepted it. Okay, and it has this, it's just given us this body, which tells us that it's gone into that folder ID. It gives us an ID for the file, which I don't think is relevant for us at this time. So you can see here that we'd already asked the bot when the training times are, which it had the information of. But when I asked it what kit I should bring, it couldn't answer that because it didn't have that information. However, now we've just added that information in and injected it into the bot using the API, it should now be able to answer this question. So let's test it out. There we go. You should bring loose-fitting clothing, or you can buy a gi from the club shop. So our API calls are working. So now let's nip over to n8n and let's get our automation up and running. So let's start building our automation. And for that, we're going to use n8n. As I said, if you have experience with Zapier or Make, this is a similar sort of thing. This just seems to be like the real hot property on the internet at the moment. And they have some really impressive stuff they can do with AI agents. But if I scroll down here, you can kind of get a view of how it works. Okay, so you have these nodes which act as like steps in your automation. You can add in sort of steps which use models, AI at large, and you can do things like decision trees and all sorts of things. So for me, n8n really strikes a good balance between functionality and ease of use. So I highly recommend it. But don't think of it as all of one or all of the other. It's very easy to get n8n, for example, to trigger something in Zapier and vice versa. So don't feel you have to put all of your eggs in one basket, so to speak. So I already have an account, so I'm going to click on sign in. If you haven't, click on get started. You can sign up for a free 14-day trial. So I'm logged in. This is me. I am going to click on my instance of n8n, which is going to bring me here. And I can click on start from scratch. So for any automation, we need to have at least one trigger and we need to have at least one step, because an automation without a trigger won't do anything. But an automation without a step also won't do anything. It'll get triggered, but then do nothing. So we need to have at least two nodes on this canvas. So first of all, we're going to add our trigger. It's going to be Gmail. Message received. Now, if this is the first time you've done this, you're going to need to come in here and create a new credential and authenticate with your Gmail account. I've already done this, so I'm just going to choose that. But if you are creating a new one, just follow the prompt. It's really simple. Poll times, I'm going to set to every day. I certainly don't need this to be done every minute. This is how often it goes off and checks for new email. Okay, so I'm going to say, yeah, every day at 2. That should be fine. This is the message received. And finally, I'm just going to put in a label here of a label that I've created in Gmail. So Gmail has this concept of labels, which is really its version of folders, if you're used to using Outlook. And what I do is I set up rules so that I know where emails might have come from or where I'm sending them from. And this really helps us focus in on the emails that we're going to want our bot to know about versus perhaps all the other sort of emails that we might not want it to know about. You wouldn't want a spam email, for example, ending up in your bot's knowledge. So I set up labels, I set up rules to add those labels. But this is one that I've already set up. So I'm now going to go fetch test event. And this is an email that I've already sent to myself and labeled accordingly. Now, this here is exactly what it looks like. It's a snippet. That is not the whole email, okay? So we just need to keep that in mind. I'm not sure why n8n decided this was the best route, but this is what we have. So I'm going to go back to the canvas here, smooth that over. And now Like say, I want to actually get the whole email. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go Gmail and I'm going to get a message. So this is the output from the trigger and it includes the message ID, which I want to just drag in there. And then we click on execute step. But again, we still don't get the whole email. Not entirely sure what the people at n8n were thinking here, but what we've got to do now is turn off simplify, come down to here, click download attachments, right? And turn that on, and then click on execute step. And now you'll see that we get a lot more information here. Specifically, we get the HTML version of the email, but critically, and this is the bit we want, we get the text. All right. So now that's done, we can come back to Canvas here. And what we have now as an output of this step is the text in our email. So what we want to do now is replicate the call that we did here in Postman, if you recall. And we want to basically make n8n make this call, but with the email contents in here. So let's do that now. We're going to click here. We're going to go HTTP request. I'm going to choose that. And then we're just using this essentially as our sort of cheat sheet. So we know we need to do a post. I'm going to copy that URL. Come back to my workflow here. So we need to change this to post. We paste in the URL. We know that the authentication, we need to provide a bearer token. So I am going to say a generic credential type. So I'm going to choose bearer, and then I'm going to come down here and I have to create a new credential. So it gives me this where I can paste in my bearer token. So I am just going to paste that in there. Hit save. I'm actually just going to give that a better name. There we go. So now we've got our authentication key in there. Okay, so we do need to send some headers, if you recall correctly, because we look in here, we had to set content type application JSON. So let's do that here. Content type application JSON. We do want to send a body. Okay, so there's a number of ways I could do this. I could say raw, and I could literally just paste in this body directly into there, but actually it allows me to define the fields using this JSON value. So I'm going to do that. So what we need to do first of all is I'm just going to get that out of the way. So this is the body that I want. This is what we're sending to the API, to the getCodie API. So I want to come back here. I want to say name. And we're going to give it a name. We're going to say, I don't know, club knowledge. And then what I'm actually going to do is to just put in the date and time in there. So now, just so that when it injects new knowledge, it'll be timestamped and we'll be able to see, we'll be able to differentiate it. Okay, so I'm just going to call it club knowledge like that. What's the next parameter? Of course, our folder ID. So I'm just going to statically plonk that in for now. Come back over here. Okay, and then finally, we want the content field, which I'm going to put in here. So what we want to do now is put the text from the, so do choose the text, not the HTML, because otherwise, as you can see, you're going to end up with a lot of tags in your knowledge, which is not necessarily what you want. But we want this. Now, what I could do is paste that in, okay, and it would just grab that and put it into the JSON packet. The problem with that is that if any stage, as you can probably see, JSON packets, they use these curly braces, they use quotes, they use colons to sort of denote things that mean something in terms of the packet itself. So a very simple example, it may sound unlikely, but if we were to put curly braces into our email, the whole thing would break. Okay, so what we need to do is make sure that the content we put in there is JSON safe. And thankfully, n8n can help us with that. So what I'm going to do is rather than put that in, I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to paste in this string instead. Now, what this is doing, it is using the stringify function in the JSON library, and I'm still using JSON text, which is referencing this field here. And what that means is that it will essentially change the output ever so slightly, just to make sure that it will happily go into a JSON packet and be accepted, but it won't change it such that it loses any meaning, if that makes sense. And we can actually see that here. If I go execute step, okay, so this now appears to have executed. We've got our green tick, which means 200. This is the response that we've got back from the getCody API. So what we can do now is come over to getCody, go into knowledge, hit that, and sure enough, here it is, right? Club knowledge, so on and so forth. And in there, just a reminder that Saturday the 14th of June will be a grading. Don't worry too much about these \n's. It's just where there's a line break in the content, and that's how they're encoded. Shouldn't make any difference to the model and to our bot. So let's now go and test that out. So this is the thread that we started with. When is the next grading? Here we go. The next grading on Saturday, 14th of June, starting at 10. You can arrive at 9:30 to practice your patterns and self-defense before it begins. So you can see there that that knowledge has been injected into this bot without any additional effort from us. Obviously, we had to create the workflow, but we'll only do that once, hopefully. So fundamentally, that feels like it's working. So from here, so I'm back in n8n. I'm going to come back here. This is our workflow. So what we can do now is we can give it a name. Karate knowledge. I can make it inactive. Sorry, make it active. Okay. And then when I go back to overview here, it's there, it's active. So in theory now, I can go and send an email. We're going to imagine that we're sending it to our club at large. Okay, but I'm actually just going to send it to myself. It doesn't have to be sent to myself, as I'll show you in a moment. But what subject are we going to do? What are we going to do it on? We're going to say subs are due. Okay, so subscription paying, right? Okay, so we're saying, look, it's time to pay. Please remember that let's say the 18th of each month, payment is required for the next training month. Please make sure you bring the cash to the next training session. Okay. Now in Gmail, like I say, I can come in here, and even if I'm sending an email, I can add a label, right? The automation is not going to care whether I've sent it or whether it's been received and been given the label when it was received. It doesn't distinguish. So this should emulate me getting an email from, say, the karate instructor or whoever, or indeed, this is just me saying, I'm going to communicate this out to the rest of the club. This should pick it up the next time it runs. Now, if you recall, if we go in here, I got it to run every day, okay, at 1400. It is currently currently 1500 local time, so this is not going to run till tomorrow. So what I think is best is if we all just sit here for about 24 hours, and I'll just stare and smile into the camera. No. So rather than do that, I'm going to click on execute workflow, and it's going to do the whole thing all the way through. There we go. And then if I come in here and I go knowledge, and I go karate club, I should have two club knowledges now. I do. Okay. So here's the one that we just did. That should have the payment is required. Yes. Okay. That should mean that I can come back here and ask when is payment required, and it should now know. There we go, the 18th of each month. There you have it, folks. So every time that an email comes out or comes in with that label, email goes out or comes in with that label, it is going to get added into our bot's knowledge. Okay. Now, as I said at the beginning, I'm using Get Cody. This is just purely because it's a super simple application to use. It's nice and accessible. If you're used to using BotPress or VoiceFlow, this is all perfectly doable with that. I've definitely done it with VoiceFlow as well. So maybe I'll do a follow-up video with it going in VoiceFlow. Please leave a comment if you want me to do that. And do you know what? I can do BotPress as well. So yeah, pop something in the comments if you want that to happen. If you use a different bot platform that I can sign up for, a free trial for, by all means, fire that over. I'll see if I can figure that out and help you as best I can in the comments. Just a few words of sort of advice if you're going to try and do this in a different platform. I say, do have a search for the API documentation and do experiment with Postman. Okay, that will really help you narrow down exactly what calls you need to make. So I think that's it, folks. We now have a self-learning bot which we can distribute either to ourselves or to the club at large. And thank you so much, by the way, for the comments on the previous video. We really do appreciate them. I appreciate this is a little less technical than I normally do, but I'm just trying out a few new things, and I thought this was a pretty cool use case. So, as ever, do hit like and subscribe if you like what you've seen. Do check out the other videos. As I say, they're a bit more technical, but I'm going to try and do some more around n8n and other platforms. So hopefully I'm sort of covering the bases in that regard. See you next time, folks.